Welcome to Battlefront Stories. Here we bring forgotten battles, real soldier diaries, and untold stories of war back to life. Witness history, one front line at a time. Wernher von Braun is not only one of the most brilliant engineers of the 20th century, but also one of the most controversial figures in history. Although he is widely known as the father of space travel, he was simultaneously the architect of one of Nazi Germany's most destructive weapons. To ensure no questions remain in your mind, here is the complete story of Wernher von Braun's life, achievements, and dark past, told as a continuous narrative. Born on March 23, 1912, in Wiersitz, German Empire, now Wierzich, Poland, Werner Magnus Maximilian Freiherr von Braun came from an aristocratic Prussian family. His father was an agriculture minister. His fascination with the sky began when his mother gave him a telescope as a Lutheran confirmation gift. He was deeply inspired by Hermann Oberth's book, By Rocket into Planetary Space. To understand the complex math and physics equations in the book, he quickly improved his mediocre math grades at school. He went on to study mechanical engineering at the Berlin Institute of Technology. During this time, he joined the amateur rocket club Verein für Raumschifffahrt, Spaceflight Society, and began working on liquid-fueled rockets. With Adolf Hitler's rise to power, everything in Germany changed. The Treaty of Versailles forbade Germany from producing heavy artillery, but rockets were not explicitly mentioned. Consequently, the German military began heavily funding rocket technology. Von Braun began working for the Army in 1932 and completed his doctorate in physics in 1934 with a classified thesis on liquid-fueled rocket engines. A massive research facility was built at Peenemünde on the Baltic Sea coast, where von Braun was appointed technical director. While his ultimate goal was space travel, the military's objective was to build a long-range ballistic missile. To sustain his career and rocket program, von Braun joined the Nazi Party in 1937 and, under pressure from Heinrich Himmler, the SS in 1940, eventually rising to the rank of Sturmbannführer, Major. He claimed these memberships were mandatory for his work. His team developed the A-4, the world's first long-range guided ballistic missile. Joseph Goebbels' propaganda machine named this missile the Phi-2, Vergeltungswaffe 2, or Vengeance Weapon 2. The Phi-2 became the first human-made object to cross the Kármán line, 100 kilometers, the recognized boundary of space. The darkest point of von Braun's legacy lies in the production of these rockets. When Peenemünde was bombed, V-2 production was moved underground to the Kohnstein mountain. Prisoners of war and Jews brought from the Mittelbau-Dora concentration camp were used as slave labor to build the facility and manufacture the missiles. Due to inhumane working conditions, disease, and executions, approximately 20,000 slave laborers died. In contrast, the V-2 rockets dropped on London and Antwerp killed around 9,000 civilians. Ultimately, the V-2 missiles killed more people during their production than upon their detonation. Von Braun personally visited the underground factory and saw the horrific conditions firsthand. Although he later claimed he had no power to change these conditions, he undeniably knew that slave labor was being used. In 1944, von Braun was arrested by the Gestapo on false charges of communist sympathies and for talking about traveling to space with rockets rather than focusing on the war effort at a party. With the V-2 project coming to a halt, Armaments Minister Albert Speer intervened to secure his release. When it became clear the war was lost, von Braun made a strategic decision. Not wanting to fall into the hands of the Soviet Union, he moved south toward American lines with 500 of his most critical scientists and tons of rocket plans. He sent his brother, Magnus von Braun, ahead to negotiate with the Americans because he spoke English, and they surrendered to U.S. forces in May 1945. Through Operation Paperclip, the United States, seeking an advantage over the Soviets in the emerging Cold War, secretly brought von Braun and over 1,600 other German scientists to America, covering up their Nazi past and potential complicity in war crimes. Von Braun's early years in the U.S. were disappointing, as the country was not yet highly interested in space or long-range rockets. Stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas, and White Sands, New Mexico, his team tested, captured V-2 rockets for the U.S. Army and trained American engineers. In 1950, the team was transferred to the Redstone Arsenal in Huntsville, Alabama, where they developed the Redstone ballistic missile, capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. Von Braun became a U.S. citizen in 1955. When the U.S. government failed to allocate a budget for space, von Braun turned to the public. He wrote visionary articles about space stations and Mars missions for Collier's magazine, and famously collaborated with Walt Disney to produce television programs, such as Man in Space, to convince the public that space travel was possible. The Soviet Union's launch of the Sputnik 1 satellite in October 1957 caused widespread panic in the U.S. The space race had officially begun, and America was falling behind. After the U.S.'s first satellite launch attempt, Vanguard, exploded on live television, the task was given to von Braun's team. The Jupiter C rocket, developed by von Braun, successfully carried Explorer 1, the first U.S. satellite, into orbit in 1958. In 1960, von Braun's team and facilities were transferred to the newly formed NASA, and he became the first director of the Marshall Space Flight Center. Following President John F. Kennedy's announcement of the goal to send a human to the moon by the end of the 1960s, von Braun embarked on the biggest project of his life. He served as the chief architect of the Saturn V Super Heavy Lift launch vehicle, the most powerful and largest launch vehicle in history. On July 16, 1969, the Saturn V rocket successfully launched the Apollo 11 mission, and humanity set foot on the moon. This was the culmination of von Braun's childhood dream and career. After reaching the moon, public interest in space and NASA's budget declined rapidly. Von Braun's plans for crewed flights to Mars were shelved. He retired from NASA in 1972 and joined Fairchild Industries, a private aerospace company, as vice president. In 1973, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He passed away on June 16, 1977, at the age of 65 in Alexandria, Virginia. His gravestone bears the verse Psalms 19:1, "The heavens declare the glory of God." Wernher von Braun's life stands at the collision point of science and morality. Without him, or had the U.S. not recruited him, America winning the space race and landing on the moon might have been delayed for decades. He was a technical genius and the chief architect of the modern space age. Yet this same man made a deal with the devil to achieve success, wore the uniform of a regime responsible for the deaths of thousands of innocent people, and turned a blind eye to their use as slave labor. Historians today still place him at the center of the debate over whether he was an opportunistic war criminal or a visionary scientist. This is just one side of the war. For more, check out Battlefront Stories and make sure to like the video and subscribe for upcoming episodes.